Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a spinning pin board. So starting off, I'm going to be using this little cork disc. You can get it on the potting section of any home goods store. Next off, we're going to be using some Velcro. Make sure you're getting the peel and stick kind, but you're also going to want to use some pins and wire cutters to secure it to the cork board. Then for the spinning mechanism, I'll be using this little 4-inch Lazy Susan. Anything light will work, just as long as you can mount it to your wall. Then I'll be painting it with some black acrylic paint and of course a paintbrush. Then for the edges, I'm going to be using this fun little Tapefitti kit that I got of all Monster High themed tape. I'm going to be using one of these for the edges, and of course, finally, we're going to be using pins. Got these at GarrettSander.com, and I will link them below in the description so you can get them as well. These have a straight pin type back, so you can put it directly into the cork, but if you were to be using a pin that has a more sort of safety pin style mechanism, it could be used for this design still by just wrapping a piece of fabric around the cork so that we can loop it in there and use it if you want. So let's get started. So starting off, I'm going to be cutting up some pieces of Velcro and sticking them to the Lazy Susan, so that way we can remove the top of the cork board, so that way you can take it on and off to attach the mounting materials, whatever you use. If you were going to be hanging this permanently, you would use some nails, so you'd want to be able to take the board with the pins on it off, so that way you can reach the pin holes or nail holes to put it in the end. Here I'm just lining it up with my board to see where the other half match, and as you can see, the stick doesn't quite work on the cork. So that's when I got the idea to try again and just use some sewing pins and just cut them to size using little wire cutters, so that way, they're not too long to stick through the cork, and using 2 on each piece of Velcro ended up working out great. So that way you can remove the pin board from the spinning and wall hanging mechanism and the Velcro doesn't come off. And I will demonstrate how that principle works here. So, time to decorate now that all the hardware is put together. Just painting it a solid black for the background, since I don't want it to be too terribly busy, since the pins are going to be covering up most of the board. I'm also making sure to paint the edges, just that way it looks nice and finished and you don't have any of that cork poking through. Next, after it's dried, I'm going to be using this little roll of tape. I chose a very simple but classic Monster High plaid design. So I'm just going to start by wrapping that around the edges here, and then just cutting it off at my desired length, then going around and sort of loosely just sort of pressing it down, and then going through a second time with my nails to really flatten it down and get everything laying the way that I want it to. Of note is obviously you could recreate this and not have it be Monster High themed, but this project was just born out of the fact that I was so sure that a spinning wall hanging pin board was something that was already in existence that I could just buy, and I discovered it wasn't, so I had to make it myself. So there it's all spinning, and I'm using here just the paintball itself to make a little circle for me to arrange the pins around, since it ended up being just the perfect size. And you want to make sure to spin the board to make sure it's perfectly centered right where it is, that way everything looks right when you are spinning it. So I'm just going around and putting the pins in a way that they're evenly distributed. Of note is that when you do make a press impression into the pin board, it does leave a mark, but it would be easy to fix by painting over it with some black, but be careful with when you're placing your pin in there, because it will leave a mark. So here it is, everything is even. The whole concept of this pin board is that it will look like it's the right direction any way you turn it, so that way you can display it with any character facing upwards, which I was inspired by, since all these pins fit together really nicely in a circle shape. So for my wall hanging, I'm going to be using command strips because I live in an apartment and I can't attach it, permanently to the walls here. So I'm just laying out the command strips, one on each corner and then one on each of the remaining bars there, peeling them off. Pretty self-explanatory. I definitely wanted to keep this as lightweight as possible for the weight that it was, so that way the command strips could support the weight. I decided to put it right here next to my big Monster High doll collection rig, right in this little section here. I love to decorate my walls and cover every inch of them. It's just my interior design style. So there it is, all centered and even, and here is the reveal. Monster, monster high, monster high, monster, monster high.
be shy, monster high. A party never dies. Monster high, monster high, monster, monster high. Freaky, chic and fly, monster high. With student bodies.
So yeah, that was it. I was super happy with how this turned out. I really love how it looks hanging up on my wall, and I can confirm that the command strips are strong enough to hold it. It's still there about a month after filming. So definitely let me know what you think. If you make one yourself, I'd love to see it. Make sure to follow me on my socials for art at least 4 times a month, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!